right. Stream is up on YouTube. And I'll start the commercial if you guys are ready.
Yep.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, Javier Morillo.
And we are wrong about everything.
Wrong about everything.
Especially wrong
Where's
about
Amy?
we're wrong about Amy Koch being here, but she is rushing. She was up north for work stuff, so this is not just her lollygagging. She had a real reason. But she'll be joining us in a few moments, and she'll be joining us in the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios, deep within the recesses of MBC Studios here in Northeast Minneapolis. Hopefully you're watching us on our YouTube channel. Gabe told me today that our numbers continue to grow, and that's awesome. So please like, subscribe, and copy and send to a friend, a neighbor, a stranger, anyone. So we appreciate that very much. We got Gabe Noah running the board in the other room. And we want to get right to, we have a special guest today. We want to get right to it. But I want to also acknowledge our good friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Bradshaw and Bryant, their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, criminal defense matter, or something to do with U of M Regents, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Well, Gabe, do we have James Farnsworth up on the screen? Is he ready to go? There he is. Hey, James.
Yeah. Hey.
So
is that a U of M Regent?
That's U of M Regent.
Here I am, live.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you who might just be listening, on the screen here is my good friend and friend of the program, James Farnsworth, who is an honest to God, real life University of Minnesota Regent, and he was very kind to come on the show today to just kind of let everyone know what the heck is a regent. 2, what's interesting about the regent selection process, which is somebody who used to work at the legislature I was involved with many, many times. And 3, why is there just a lot of smoke and fire and controversy around the appointments that were just made by Governor Tim Walz? So, James, thank you very much. Why don't you start off by telling a little bit about yourself and what's your position on the Board of Regents?
Yeah, well, good to be with you. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to our conversation today. I was elected to the Board of Regents in 2021, so part of the 21 class. It's a 6-year term on the board, and so I am going to be maybe or maybe not going through the process again, starting next fall. I can't even believe it feels like we're in the process all the time. And so my term goes through 2027. And outside of serving as a regent, which is many people don't know is a volunteer, uncompensated governance position. So it is not my full-time role. I work for the YMCA and civic engagement and a little bit of government relations advocacy type work. So that's what I do full-time and serve as a regent on the side and have chaired. It was chair last cycle of our audit and compliance committee, and now I'm the vice chair of our finance and operations committee because we just turned over kind of our 2-year committee cycle. And then as regents, we serve on other committees. We are at various university events. We do kind of all sorts of different things as regents. So it's been an honor to serve. Looking forward to chatting and hopefully helping folks understand kind of the process and then what is a regent. And I think more conversation about regents is good. Unfortunately, the process conversation is always difficult, and that's kind of when people are kind of most aware, perhaps, of what regents are when selection time comes around. But I think it's good to have conversations to raise awareness of what the board is, because I believe it's very important who's serving on the board, what the board does, and it's very often not understood or not doesn't have as much sunshine as I think it should.
So when you were elected to be a U of M regent, you went through the process in the traditional way. What is the process? What did you have to do to actually get yourself elected to the Board of Regents?
Well, and so funny enough, there's a process, if you will, but as I'll describe, people can enter the process at any time. So kind of the standard process is that there's a group of appointed citizens, half by the House, half by the Senate, that serve on the Regent Candidate Advisory Council, which is staffed through the Legislative Coordinating Commission. And so you apply to the Regent Candidate Advisory Council. That group interviews and screens applicants to make a set of recommendations to a joint session of the House and Senate Higher Education Committees. Then I think it's in statute that joint session of the higher ed committees has to happen by the end of February. So they meet and then make recommendations to the full legislature. And then between that point and end of session, there's a joint convention of the House and the Senate. I believe it's the only time the House and the Senate come together in joint session besides hearing the state of the state from the governor is to elect regents to the University of Minnesota. And so that is the standard process. However, at the joint committee level and then on the floor of the joint convention, other people can be nominated. So you could skip the entire process and get nominated on the floor at the end. That process, of course, includes public interviews at the Regent Candidate Advisory Council level and the joint convention level, or joint committee level. The University of Minnesota Alumni Association usually independently organizes a candidate forum as well. So there's lots of kind of visibility touch points for candidates. As we saw this year, which we'll probably talk about, the governor takes over if the legislature does not convene that joint convention. And so that's what happened this year, which I'm assuming we'll talk more about.
So I served as a trustee at the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities for a few years, and the appointment process and that instance is the appointments are all the governors for the U of M regents. So the legislature does it, and so essentially in the normal times all the governor does is sign the bill.
And so the governor would have nothing to do with it. The legislature would do it. They would vote by voice vote. It's a long night, the joint convention, to elect all the seats. The Speaker of the House, who's presiding over the joint convention, hits the gavel and you're elected. Like, you are elected the second the election is over, and that's when your 6-year term starts. And so that's what would happen in a normal process, is that the legislature holds control of the seats. This goes into a broader conversation, which is a little bit more in the weeds around the constitutional autonomy of the university and how the university is related to the state. And there's a reason, it was set up so the legislature elects regents as the public kind of oversight body of the university, but the university has constitutional autonomy in certain areas. So.
Right. Yeah. That's the land grant from the perspective of the state colleges, exactly. Means that we can get the legislature can impose a tuition freeze on Minnesota State's colleges and universities, but not on you all. You all can take the money and the legislature can say, please don't raise tuition. And you guys say, thanks for your opinion.
We will take that under advisement. So James, now people who are listening are probably like, thanks for the lesson, Wrong About Everything. We feel so much smarter now. But there is a political element, a kooky, kind of left turn that this process took with Governor Walz, and with everything else that has been going on at the legislature. It's just one more thing that made the 2025 session and everything around it unique. So why are people all up in arms about how the most recent regent class was essentially chosen by the governor? What was different about this process?
Yeah, so if the legislature does not convene that joint convention by the end of session by sine die, then the appointments go to the governor, right? So the governor, in this case, started over the process. So there were folks who applied to serve. He opened up an application period. His office opened an application period where you could apply to serve and be considered. And so there were a lot of people that were not part of that legislative process. So that means, no candidate forms, no written materials. They didn't do all the stuff that the people going through the legislative process did. And so what ended up happening is that there were two regents appointed that were not part of that legislative process. And then two regents appointed that did go through that process, that had appeared in front of the joint committee of the House and Senate Higher Education Committee. So I think there was some consternation and feelings there. And then there's clearly been some political observations and fallout by some around the campaign contributions, which are public, of individuals who were elected, and some, lines being drawn by some in some, dynamics there that clearly were noted in the media by different factions. And what's kind of interesting, just on a personal note, like, the right is upset about this, and the hard left is upset about this, and everyone in between. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there, just to observe.
And I don't know any of the people that were appointed, so I'm not saying that they're not qualified, that they're not good. I'm not saying anything like that. But am I correct or mistaken that there were some members of the legislature who kind of asked the governor to, essentially to make the appointments on his own? And is that true, or is that just kind of like what's floating out in the ether?
Well, so, I learned I think the same that everyone else did when there was a letter from Chair Fate, Senator Omar Fate, and Representative Dan Wolgamont, who I think, I don't know when the letter was dated. I think it was right after the end of session, to the governor expressing their choice of pick. So I read that. It was released somewhere online, which I thought was kind of interesting. I was not aware that letter had happened. And so there was expression by the DFL, higher ed co-chair, and the DFL Senate chair, or higher ed chair, of expressed, a pick for candidates. And only one of those, or maybe I guess two of those candidates on the list were picked, but then two were picked that were not, that were outside the process, if you will, the legislative process. So I think that letter does exist. It was interesting to read. And that contributed to some of the political, I think, fallout from what's been going on and the dynamic that exists now.
And their letter, they expressed their preferences. So the thing is that the governor ignored those preferences and ignored folks out of the process, right?
Correct.
And so the two appointees are Samuel Hines, the retired U ambassador to Norway, and Ellen Lugar. Right. Those are the two that were outside of the process, I believe.
Also, the two, so close. Sam Hines and then Joel Bergstrom was outside the process. Ellen actually did make it to the was part of the process, made it to the joint higher education committee level, was not recommended by the committee, and then
but was in the process. Okay, good. Thanks for that correction. Yeah. So I don't know the ambassador. I know Joel Bergstrom from just life and politics. Nothing against any of them, but it would raise, certainly raised eyebrows, around, as you said, just because to me, it just seems, it was a little baffling, just in the sense of why invite this kind of scrutiny?
I think that's it, because
when there are people to choose, they're like the legislature, you could. I don't get it.
Well, and you're 100% right, because if someone says, "Oh, I can't believe that the process has been politicized," well, the process has always been politicized as long as I've been around. This would be my 26th year up at the Capitol, and it's always, you got to get the votes, and a lot of times, it's are there more Republicans in the legislature or are there more Democrats? Because you put them together, we have 201. We have 201 legislators, and there's there's 101 Democrats and 100 Republicans, based on other than all the special elections that we have. So, but it does seem like another kind of odd step by the governor to not make himself look all that good. I mean, how it's happened traditionally is if there are people that the governor wants, or the Senate or the House or whatever, that there's campaigning, there's arm twisting, it's trendy. trench warfare, and then you get the votes. But that didn't really happen. At least it didn't happen, in a kind of outside manner. So I agree with you. I think it's weird that the governor chose to do this with everything else that's going on. And the next thing we're going to talk about is whether he's running for governor or not. And I guess if he's not running again, then it doesn't matter what he does, because
it's a YOLO appointment.
It's a YOLO appointment. So James, what roughly? Now you said earlier that the U of M can kind of do whatever they want, and that's fine. But roughly, how big is the budget that kind of the regents are able to at least have some influence over?
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think this is obvious, but just here speaking on behalf of myself
Sure,
as an individual
absolutely.
regent here, but
Of course.
the budget, it changes and grows. So for the university right now, I think 4.2 billion is roughly the size of the budget. And so it's a significant responsibility, and it leads to all sorts of interesting, that stat in particular leads to interesting discussions and brainstorming around the function of the board and the structure related to this election process, related to how people serve. We're electing people to oversee a $4.2 billion budget, which is bigger than a lot of other government entities with boards that receive compensation, that have more regular meetings, more regular staffing, like a county commission, for instance, or other things. So it's significant.
Yeah, this isn't like picking somebody to be on the Lakeville dog catcher committee or something. These are people that need to have talent and need to have they have a lot of influence,
and need to have a lot, and honestly need to have a lot of time. One of my frustrations about being on the board of trustees is that there was board meetings were essentially took 2 days out of your month, like work days. So especially for Minnesota State colleges and universities, what that means is that retired or wealthy people can serve on the board.
Yeah.
It's just very challenging. So props to you, James, because you're not just working, you're also working in the nonprofit sector, and on top of that, doing it, because I can attest to this. It's a lot of work. Even just keeping up with all the things, let alone chairing committees and such. But so does this function like recess appointments and government, where if there's in the federal government, if there's a recess appointment, it lasts for a certain amount of time, but then it has to be approved by the Senate? Do we are these appointments just they have 6-year terms now?
I'm glad you mentioned that. And just to really quickly comment on the last piece too, I completely agree with what you said around the kind of the sustainability of these roles and the commitment. And we need more people who are, in their careers and out in community, doing things with diverse backgrounds. There's some people that run around, adjacent or in this broader regent process that say, you should be retired and you should have time. And there were candidates this cycle who were actually using being retired as a talking point. And I thought that was really unfortunate. No shade to people that are retired. There's space for that. There's folks that are retired that bring great perspectives and long bodies of professional experience to this. But I don't think that is what everybody should be. So I think it's important people bring different perspectives. So,
I was witness to conversations where it was very clear. I was just it was just very, very aware that the people in the room, many of them had not experienced themselves being low income college students. And for Minnesota State colleges and universities, especially frustrating, because that's the community that we serve. And as you said, I think even you have regions, right? The University of Minnesota is the flagship school of the state of Minnesota, and it should be governed by a broad cross section of Minnesotans, and not just reserved to the rich and retirees. So I'm 100% with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to add my kind of stamp of emphasis to what you were saying, but just to really quickly comment on the other question, because that is kind of a very relevant process point. So what's interesting now is, so the governors made these appointments. We're having, these people were appointed. There's eyes on the process. It is true that these are sort of, I use the term, I think it's unofficial, but I use the term interim appointments. So they, if you were going on the Board of Regents website, I think it says appointed by, and then it says the year that they'd be, so whatever 6 years it's from now, the term that they're filling. However, with a gubernatorial appointee to the Board of Regents, the legislature can replace these appointees at any time. So I think it's a large lift to get a joint convention done, clearly, because there wasn't one this year, and it's a large lift a normal year. But theoretically, in 2 years, when my seat and the 3 other seats are up, there could technically be 8 seats up. That's where the politics and the arm twisting and the conversation really comes in, because I think it's a bigger bar to then unseat appointees. But technically, they are subject to removal by the legislature and reappointment of the term at any time for the next 6 years.
Oh, see, I learned something. I actually did not know that the legislature had that problem. I had that power. Well, we're going to finish up, but I'm gonna let James go, but not before I embarrass him a little bit. James is and Amy's here now. Yeah.
Hi, James Farnsworth.
Hey, Amy.
Hi, Javier.
But James Farnsworth is the hardest working man in show business. I mean, he is somebody that wherever you go in politics, James is there. And, he runs for things. He's successful. He cares passionately about the communities that he interacts with. And, I've enjoyed getting to know him. I consider him a friend, and I am awestruck sometimes by the Energizer Bunny that you are, because it is always James is doing this, and this. And, you're generous with your time. And, thank you so much for your job with University of Minnesota, for the YMCA, and everything else that we get to see you go do. So,
hey, thank you very much. As a longtime fan of the show, I was actually very honored for this invitation to talk with you all, and I think it's really important. Again, regents are often overlooked. It's a really important governance body in our state, and so I think the more conversations about board governance at the University of Minnesota happening publicly, the better.
This is great.
Really appreciate the time, and see you all soon, I hope.
All right. See you soon, James. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Take care.
James Farnsworth, everybody. Well,
Javi, hi.
our family's all here now.
Hello.
Hi, dear.
Hello.
So,
you look so tanned and rested. Was Puerto Rico awesome?
Puerto Rico was amazing. It was amazing. The Bad Bunny concert was like sublime. Like the best show I've ever seen.
I can't imagine. Sorry, Brian.
It was just.
what do you think? I care what we talk about on here? I don't care.
No, it was amazing. It was nice to be home for 2 weeks and stuff. So
no, that's awesome.
But also good to be back.
Well,
just in time for the fair.
Just in time for the fair, and thank you for the segue, Javier, because Governor Walz has kind of said he's going to get through the fair, and then he's gonna let everyone know what his decision is about whether he intends to run for a third term as governor of the state of Minnesota. Now, running for a third term is something that is 100% allowed. There's not term limits like there is for the president or something like that. So absolutely, it is within Governor Walz's purview to decide whether he wants to run or not run. But there has not been a governor of Minnesota that has gone successfully, maybe not even tried, but there certainly hasn't been anyone who successfully has had a third term as governor in the state of Minnesota, because the longer you do something like this, whether you do a good job, a bad job, or somewhere in between, there's fatigue. And there's a lot going on at the legislature, everything from, just the narrow majorities to the assassination of the former Speaker Melissa Hortman, Governor Walz's attempt to be vice president. Everything there has kind of now come to a head where he has to decide, is it the red pill or the blue pill? Is he going to run for governor? Is he going to not run for governor? Because then that frees him up to run for president in 2 years, or neither. He doesn't have to do either. He doesn't have to run for president, doesn't have to run for governor, doesn't have to do any of it. And before I kind of ask Javier what he's hearing from the left, I would have said a month ago, 2 months ago, metaphysical certainty that the governor is running for governor again for a third term. And pretty much every day, it seems like we're hearing more and more that is not for sure. And I guess if I had to bet right now, I would say I don't think he is running for a third term. Javier, what are you hearing in your world?
Like what I don't know for certain, just to be absolutely clear. But what I do know is that there's a lot of sort of quiet jockeying for, like, if he doesn't, then who runs for this and who runs for that, and who's like, and who like, and like, so I'll just say that other elected officials are planning for him not running.
Yeah.
Other elected officials and possible candidates are positioning themselves for positions under the assumption that he won't be running.
So now I'll say maybe something that Javier doesn't want to, so he doesn't get in trouble. But what I heard straight, somebody who was in the room with Congresswoman Angie Craig, who is currently running for Senate, for U.S. Senate, that she told people that she was meeting with that if Walz decides not to run for a third term, that she intends to then shift from Senate to running for governor. And the name that I've been hearing, and Amy's been hearing, and probably everyone's been hearing, is that Amy Klobuchar would be interested. And Javier shakes his head no, which is what we do too. Makes no sense to me, but I have been hearing her name more and more kind of tied to running for governor if Walz steps down. Amy, what have you been hearing?
Well, so first of all, Javier, how's it feel to have a bench? Because that's nice that you have jockeying.
Yeah.
And shut up about
It's
it.
nice.
No, I'm sure it's really nice. Look, we're just trying to form a bench. There's a lot of opportunity when you don't have a bench, because it can be anything you want. The bench can look anything like you want. That's the wonderful thing about not having a bench.
That's a silver lining. That's a silver lining.
But
We're not burdened with options.
Right.
We're just
we don't have to make a choice. We'll just be like, oh, okay, you. Great. No. So I do wonder, though, depending on just looking at the other side of the aisle on the GOP, we have had some big names that have just said no, not running, right? Stauber, Emmer. Have not heard officially from Demuth. Speaker Demuth. But today, a House member did jump in, Kristen Robbins.
Yep.
And so she's House of Representatives, been there for several years from kind of the Maple Grove, Rogers area. She is the chair of the Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Committee. So obviously that is going to be a large piece of her campaign. But I do wonder if Walz leaves, if there won't actually be some jockeying up on the GOP side too.
I think so too. I mean, absolutely, yes.
Right? Like an empty seat is a little bit different than running against a two-term governor with $1 million or $2 million in the bank.
Right.
Even you just have the calculation looks a little different. And a politician, it's not even a politician, right? You can change your mind.
Yeah.
You can change your mind. So I won't be surprised if something happens. I don't have any knowledge of that. I just kind of wonder the calculation changes if Governor Walz decides not to run. And right now I'm in camp of, I don't think he runs.
Yeah.
So can I just say, I actually didn't know what you just said, that you said that maybe like that I might get into trouble, the thing about Angie Craig. That doesn't surprise me, but I might get in trouble for what I'm about to say.
Uh-oh. But you're going to say it anyway.
So I get this text this week. Tim Walz here, not from Tim Walz. But he doesn't text me. Since when do politicians get to choose their own voters? I taught social studies for a long time, so let me tell you something. That's not how it works. There's no way in hell I'm going to sit by and let Republicans in Texas and across the country draw their own districts to avoid competitive elections and accountability from voters. Democrats in every corner of this nation are fighting back against this power grab, and I'm proud to stand with them and do whatever I can to ensure every voter gets a choice. And then it's a fundraising. It's like it's just chip in.
But it's talking national.
There's literally nothing that we are doing in Minnesota to counter that. Like California is New York. There are some other states that are talking about about redoing their maps to even out what the Republicans in Texas are doing. That is just sending Tim Walz money to his state account, which he might not be using.
Yeah,
that sounds baffling. I'm like, why am I getting a fundraising text on a national issue for a state governor account when all the expectation seems to be that you're not running for re-election? It feels a little cynical.
Yeah, I mean, and as Amy said, Kristen Robbins is somebody that we worked with. She is somebody who doesn't have name ID, doesn't have a war chest, Compared to some of the other people that have thrown their hat into the ring with, Royce White for Senate and Dr. Jensen, who's back for governor, and Kendall Walz to a certain other extent. I mean, she is somebody who kind of represents the more traditional wing of the Republican Party. So I think that she actually could be packaged in a way if there is money, if there is interest. I think that she would be good. We've heard.
Like a GOP suburban woman. I mean, that's a good.
We've been begging for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw the news coverage, or she got good coverage because the focus of the coverage was on her chairing the fraud committee, which by the way did not hear the Medicaid fraud bill. When they could have, but her announcement video is actually pretty MAGA, and so it's going to be an interesting on your side of the aisle how people play that, because I think she seems to have a profile of a normie kind of Republican, but then but the base, that's not where the base is anymore. And so, her announcement videos, like trans kids, it's all the major talking points. And I think, especially in a year where an off-year election, when state elections will be very nationalized as a congressional, and Democratic base voters will be motivated to get out. It's going to be an interesting sort of tightrope to walk for all Republican candidates.
It is, right? Because the thing that you want to, I believe, as a Republican, hit walls on is the fraud.
Yeah.
And the fraud, right? Like all day long, $1 billion, according to the U.S. attorney, that he can prosecute, right? That he, story after story after story under the last 8 years of the administration. So that seems like the top issue if I'm running against Governor Walz that I want to run against. Actually, I think that makes it harder for Republicans if someone else steps in, because they can actually kind of go, well, look, that won't happen under my watch, right? But yet you're right, Javier, to get that endorsement, which to this point for the Republicans, we have not had a governor candidate that didn't get the endorsement. And the most famous was 2018. Former Governor Tim Pawlenty ran for the endorsement, did not get the endorsement, ran in a primary against Jeff Johnson, and got slaughtered in a primary, slaughtered. So we've not had, even to that level of name ID and money raised, we've not had a Republican beat it. And so, what's going to happen this time around?
Well, and with
who gets through
with Representative Robbins, Javier's 100% right. I mean, our base, our delegates are pretty MAGA at the moment, but she's not. I'm not saying that she is a moderate Republican who is pretending to be MAGA. I mean, she's a very conservative person. What gives me comfort though is that she is not somebody who is going to read someone's talking points and then just form their opinion and go off and do it. She is somebody who I think definitely has her own thoughts and opinions and is super tough. And I found her to be good to work with on a lot of things.
Oh, she's a fiscal conservative. She's
Yep.
Not messing around.
So yeah, and there's a couple other Republicans that have kind of reached out to us, kind of asking whether they would be well positioned. So I'm feeling better about the Republicans that are considering jumping in. But as Amy said, fraud is the main thing that we have on Governor Walz, and if Governor Walz isn't running, it's going to be a lot harder to pin that on Congresswoman Craig or Senator Klobuchar or somebody else. So. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, and I would say, everyone, just wait, because it's all just speculation at this point. Go to the fair, enjoy yourself, and then in September, all things will be made known there. Now, something big happened just yesterday, wasn't it? Was it just yesterday? The day before?
It's hard to keep track.
But so at the end of 2014, there was a very controversial end to session here in Minnesota, where a bill in the final moments of the legislature went from being 148 pages to over 1,400 pages.
So this had to have happened yesterday because we heard about it. We heard about it at lunch on Monday.
Monday, yeah.
And then did it happen either Monday afternoon or anyway?
Yeah, because we were given a smidge of it at lunch on Monday, and then we found out shortly after that it did happen. So, but what had happened was a Ramsey County judge on Monday struck down the state's ban on binary triggers. So this is just one part of the 1,400-page or nearly 1,500-page tax omnibus bill at the end of 2014. A binary trigger is a gun modification that allows the weapon to fire a bullet on both the pull and the release of the trigger. So the Ramsey County judge.
Brian, you keep saying 2014. Do you mean 2024?
Oh, I'm sorry, 2024. Thank you.
He's a decade behind.
I'm a decade behind. No, 2024. That's right. You're right.
It was like, wow, that took a long time to get to the court.
Well, everything's getting gummed.
Courts are really gummed up.
They're gumming up the works. I blame Mary Moriarty somehow. But Ramsey County Judge Leonardo Castro sided with the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, which brought the lawsuit on the grounds that the law violates, and this is the tax bill, the law violates the single subject and title clause of the Minnesota Constitution, which for any of us that work in this, the answer is duh. Yeah, these omnibus bills are blatantly unconstitutional, and Republicans have done it. This is just, in this example, it was the Democrats, and this was the worst one. But it's not like these ginormous omnibus bills haven't existed under all leadership. But when they say single subject is, according to the Constitution, each bill is supposed to be about one thing. You cannot have a 1,500-page bill that dealt with taxes and
you can even expand, of course, a budget bill that is just about health and human services can easily become a 1,000-page bill. Like that's happened all the time. Right. And I don't love it. But when we have a large budget bill, sometimes that's just what has to happen. But at least in that budget bill, you're keeping everything that has to do with a certain agency in one bill.
Yep.
This was just, this was a whole bunch of those omnibus bills put into one big, massive bill with less than an hour to go in session?
Oh yeah, way less than an hour. And omnibus bills are they happen in the state level, they happen on the federal level, and if you're not familiar with what an omnibus bill is it's not just passing one bill. It'll be 5, 10, 15, 50, 100 different issues in one bill. And what that does is it kind of makes it so you can get people to vote for something that they might not have voted for on its own, because they want to vote for the bill because there's something in it they like, and sometimes they have to hold their nose and vote for a bill with something in it they don't like in order to get what they want. But normally it is higher ed or health and human services or commerce or something like that, and not these behemoth bills. And this, like I said, this dealt with the binary trigger ban. But what this kind of does is, by saying that this one part of it was unconstitutional, it essentially means if you want to sue, pretty much anything is going to be deemed unconstitutional in this. And there are, I had clients and people kind of saying, well, hey, we had X that was in that bill. Is that in trouble? And I'm like, not yet. But, in theory, I'm sure that there are people that are running to their local courthouse to file, whatever would be an injunction or whatever it might be, to try to overturn parts or all of, the 2024 omnibus tax bill. So this is not over with. It's not over with by a long shot, and this could have pretty amazing consequences, because there's good stuff in that bill, there's bad stuff in the bill, but all of it is definitely clouded by doubt. So I guess we will see how that goes. Javier.
That was going to be my question to you all. So presumably, then like if this could be appealed, and then but if the Minnesota Supreme Court says, reaffirms the single issue, like, will this just redo how the end of session happens?
So first of all, it should. The end of session has become just a really not transparent, and it has been happening over several years. So I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody, but in the last, especially since COVID, but even starting before COVID, where you just there used to be conference committees where you went, and we talked about this. You'd go to conference committees and you'd spend hours and days working on these omnibus bills, and you'd have the House and the Senate and they would debate. These days, you get an omnibus bill, they put together a conference committee, but no one on the conference committee, they meet just to go over the bill, and then they come back with a finished product that they've agreed to, and they put it on the table for everybody to sign. It's become really without very little to no public input. And I know they'll say, oh, well, we had hearings throughout the session. No, you didn't. You had
Not always.
2 minutes, not always. And oftentimes you had 2 minutes where you don't really fully discuss
Like Stillwater Prison.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
where was that?
Big
Where
thing.
was that?
Now, that wasn't in this bill, but it's an example of
massive things that are put into these bills. And so I hope it does. I hope the process gets better and cleaner and more transparent. And again, I am not pointing fingers at either party. I'm not pointing fingers at any leader. I'm saying let's do better. There's a way to do better.
And the single subject rule has been tested before. I mean, I like one of the things I remember is that I was a lobbyist by then. I wasn't staff, but it was another gun issue. It was the I think it was the conceal and carry stuff.
Yeah.
And what had happened is that there was a bill about circuses. Mm-hmm. And then they put on what they called a bridge amendment. So they put something on this circus bill that must have had something to do with guns one way or the other. And then that gave them the ability to say, okay, well, this amendment now with all the conceal and carry stuff on it is now germane to the bill, and the bill satisfies the single subject rule. Well, that was turned down, struck down, and they had to come back and do it a different way. But the single subject rule is something that for those of us who work in politics here, it's violated every year, no matter who's in charge. And it has gotten to be ridiculous, and they are just absolutely flaunting the Constitution. And so I applaud this because it is correct. It is constitutionally correct. It does make me think, oh Jesus, now what's going to happen with everything that was in that 1,500?
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
But it's you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. So. We will keep. Guys,
we have some breaking news on the. So I have heard this. I've not seen it reported, but the DFL, the committee that was reviewing the endorsement process, seems to have pulled the endorsement of.
That is breaking news. So this is City of Minneapolis DFL. And there was a challenge by the Fry campaign to be that. So the City of Minneapolis, for the first time in 20 years, endorsed Senator Omar Fateh. The Fry's team alleged that it was not legal, correct? That
not all the votes were counted.
Were counted, and now that's been struck down.
So that's what I'm hearing. That the committee that was hearing it is struck down.
Wow.
This is look. I support Dwayne Davis for mayor, but this is insane. Like, I have been to many conventions, and there are Fry's campaign tried to do a quorum call. They tried to walk out, and they didn't do their math correctly, and so then there was a hand vote, and those happen all the time. I think this is going to be really, really bad for the party, and I think it's a big mistake for the chair of the party to have for the new chair, Richard Caldbaum, to have allowed this to happen, because there are lots of you're going to disappoint a lot of people who, especially base progressives, and really it's sending the message that which we've heard over and over from Democrats like to the left of the party like vote blue no matter who. And increasingly, you're seeing people pointing out that that only seems to apply when moderates are chastising progressives, but the other way around, it doesn't work. Like, so I think this is a big mistake that that also could just have severe ramifications for the party.
But the committee, what did they hear that? They must have found some validity to the allegations.
Yeah, I think there was.
I mean, it wasn't about a quorum call. That wasn't the.
Well, there was a lot going on.
Right.
But I think ultimately what they did, and Javier, tell me if I'm wrong, but didn't they do something which essentially took Dwayne Davis out of the running earlier than he needed to be? And at first, the Minneapolis DFL, this is not the state DFL, the Minneapolis DFL said, "Oh no, everything went to plan." And then when they got in this hearing or whatever it was, they kind of said, "Yeah, we kind of didn't do it right, but it doesn't matter." And it might not actually matter politically. But I do agree with Javier that I think that the sloppiness that got us here by whomever is going to give a blueprint on.
Listen.
Yeah, sorry. Javier.
Listen, I was helping to run the floor for Betsy Hodges' campaign in 2012, when she like 2013, and at the convention, like between I think it was second ballot and third ballot, we had gained significantly. That was our momentum ballot, which from conventions, right? Like that, your momentum, like a momentum at a point like that is just really critical. And we had one of the other candidates who dropped out ready to endorse us. So it was like, and then there were shenanigans because the person who was chairing the convention held up the vote for, it was something insane, like over an hour and a half.
Ooh.
It was just like, we were waiting. And so our momentum ballot, got lost. That was when I led the last successul
that was you
call.
You had a pizza party, a legendary pizza party.
I'm kidding. We had like 3 pizzas for like 400 pizzas, and so it got reported.
Loaves and fishes. Loaves and fishes.
First of all, I did not order pizza. Someone else did. I don't know.
Well, you wouldn't have time
but in
for
any
that.
case, But I certainly talked to a lot of people saying, "Hey, let's go home. Yeah, this is going to be a long day. Let's go home. And we were successful. Like the fact that a convention was messy and there were weird, like that just means it was a convention. I just think this is like a lot weirder things happen than like the in conventions and people are just like, oh, that's just how it goes. So I don't buy it. This is a part of the party, trying to purge the left and purge the party of democratic socialists, of people identified the Minneapolis DFL is busy trying to literally purge democratic socialists from the party, and it's stupid. We don't win elections through subtraction.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close on time here, so why don't we go to plugs? Javier, do you have anything to plug?
Wait, first I want to say we have, and this is while I was away. So congratulations, guys! We have 2 new members of the Wrong About Everything, Not a Dick Club. John Bartholomew.
Oh yeah, no, that's my buddy John. Giddy up.
He's my buddy too, but I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think I've only read
it. It's I would say Bartholo.
Bartholo. Okay, yeah, and Sean Grund.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and John, but Javier and Brian have slobber over John. So.
Patreon.com/wrongaboutEverythingPodcast. Please, if you can afford it, if you're going to, and you like listening to the show, we put our hearts into this project. We've been doing it for 12 years. And because if you can afford it and you're not throwing a few bucks away, you're kind of being a dick. So don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Thanks, you,
John. Thanks, Sean.
Anything to plug?
I am hosting the Moth at the next week. Jeez, yeah, the 27th. Wait, is that right? Yes, the 27th at the Parkway Theater. The theme is lies. So that should be a good theme. So the Moth Story Slam, doors open at 6:30. The stories start at 7:30. So it is a very entertaining and best value for your dollar. In my opinion.
I should go and tell the story about when you lied to me about being trying out for Menudo.
You could do that, but just remember, I am hosting, so I have the power of the microphone.
You know what you did.
He's a god in moth. He's a moth god.
When I went to the show, it was a little while ago. When I went to the show, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun, and I've never seen Javier more happy than when he was doing that. So it was a lot of fun. Amy, every Tuesday, Amy and I are on the Bob Sansevier show. So find us at thebsshow.com. Amy, you got anything else to?
Yeah, I'm in the Strib this week talking about the governor's race. Kristen Robbins jumped in. I did an interview today with the London Telegraph. So if you get that. About Gavin Newsom and Trump and their Twitter battle. Also, Javier and I are going to be doing next Thursday at the State Fair a debate on NPR. Javier.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's right.
Yes, at 10:30. So if you are at the State Fair on Thursday, which I know hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans are going to be on that day, stop by NPR, come and sit in the shade, take a load off, bring something to eat, and you can watch Javier and I do our debate. I'll also be at the State Fair on Friday morning, the 29th. So next Friday, WCCO at the State Fair starting at 8 o'clock. So again, there's benches, there's shade, and there's a little bit of entertainment for you. Talking politics.
Amy, remind me what we're debating.
I don't know. We're just debating each other.
Sounds great. All right, let's do Spanks and Thanks, and let's try to be judicious with time, please.
I'll do because I can go fast. So, okay, my spank is this week is for I guess the DOT and 94 because Highway 94 between St. Paul and Minneapolis has been a massive pain in the butt for 4 to 5 months now. Most halfway shut down. It has really slowed travel between the cities. It's been nightmare. They actually shut it down last weekend entirely. 94 was just completely shut down, and then we were like, well, the good news is it will be wide open on Monday. Which, okay, yes, you did get open on Monday, but Brian and I were driving it, and we're like,
what the hell's different?
5 months, what did they do? I literally can't see any difference. I don't see new pavement. I don't see new paint. I can't see, there's not extra lanes.
The only thing we can tell is that they did something with a bridge.
There was a bridge that had something.
And it's not open for good now. After the fair, they're going to shut it down again.
Oh, no. Anyway, you're spanked. What are you doing
you
there?
guys sound like Andy Rooney.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening.
Did you ever drive on 94?
Just
wonder what it is. Now,
what's going on with the road?
99% of anyone listening to this is like, who the hell's Andy Rooney? But he's a legend, and you should know who that is.
But 99% listening have driven on 94 and been inconvenienced for the last 5 months.
Yeah. Sucks.
All right, and then my today actually I was up at the site in Nashwauk. It is the Masami Metallics. This is a disclosure. They are a client, but it's been a client that I've been working for in 2 years. It will be the first new taconite mine when it opens next year. The first new mine to open in the state of Minnesota in 50 years. The last time was 1975. Governor Walz was on site today. A whole host of local electeds. And Governor pointed out the last time this happened, the Vikings were in the Super Bowl. So, I'm just saying it might be a good season. I don't know. But I just want to say thank you because today was actually a long time coming. There was we've got a lot of building trades and not 49ers. I'm wearing my 49er hat on site that have been working hard to get this project done. There have been a ton of local electeds that have gotten this done, particularly Mayor Haybloom from Nashwauk, county commissioners from Itasca, Casey Venema, Terry Schneider, Barb Colmy, local school board, who also is cutting the ribbon on a new school. A couple years ago, I was in Nashwauk, And they were worried. Itasca County's worried. Nashuack's worried. They've been losing a lot of business. They've been losing a lot of companies. They've been losing a lot of jobs. And this is going to be really something to the area. And people have worked very, very hard to get something up and running and get this working in a way. And by the way, it's going to be green steel. It's going to be the most environmentally friendly steel or taconite in the country. And I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I want to say thank you to all those people that worked so hard. It was a big day and it was a long time coming. So thank you.
Awesome. Javier.
So my start with the spank for the spectacle that we've seen in the last week. Amy, our Russian linguist, I'm curious to know how you saw the President of the United States literally rolling out the red carpet on American soil for Vladimir Putin. It's astounding. President Trump went into the meeting on Friday saying that success would be determined by whether or not he leaves with a ceasefire, and left that meeting, and in the subsequent meeting with European allies and with Zelensky in the White House, has just been parroting Putin's talking point, that no longer demanding a ceasefire, no longer talking tough on Russia. Like the president not just welcomed them, like American soldiers were literally on their knees, rolling out a red carpet for a brutal dictator, and then he rode in the car in the Beast with the president, former KGB agent, by the way, inside the president's limo. Sure, why not? It is a scary thing that we are witnessing, and Europe is rightly freaked out. That's why half of European leaders came to the White House with Zelensky to manage that meeting, where they all did their best to blow smoke up the president's butt, because it's the only way to get anything out of him. Although they're clearly not as good at it as Putin is, because he gets everything he wants. And my second is a spuffank. I want to start out Gabe, if you could play a video, and I'll describe it without audio for our listeners. People across the country have seen this, and it's happened multiple times in Washington, D.C. as the National Guard, as the Washington, D.C. has been militarized by the regime. That the images are of federal agents, not clear what agency they are with, tackling a food delivery guy on a moped and tasing him, it seems, and people screaming. And there's there at one point someone says, "You're ruining DC," and an agent replies, "Liberals already ruined it," which seems an inappropriate political statement to come out of a federal agent while on duty. But that's what's going on in the nation's capital. And the reason this is a spathank is because moments like this are giving us the opportunity to see what you reference what I was talking about earlier about normies and how they deal with Trumpism. One of our normies, supposed normies in state, is a gentleman named Andy Brem. I've been on Almanac many. In fact, I think the very first time I was on Almanac, I was on with Andy Brem, or very soon after that. He wrote an op-ed for the Star Tribune. He's a regular columnist there, that is titled Trump's DC crime crackdown is great politics and even better policy. And he's using this as he's saying that this is, criminals, like when they fear incarceration, crime goes down. That's actually not true, but doesn't matter. Like, we all want crime down, and we know that the way to do that is to have law enforcement do a good job. And the National Guard they're not police. They are not law enforcement. That's not what they were designed to do. The whole pretext of this was that one of the Doge teenagers who was ruining government was brutally attacked. Terrible, should not have happened. his attackers were actually immediately arrested. So, yes, it shouldn't have happened, but the crime was caught, and the people will be presumably punished. But the spectacle of Republican governors now sending troops, National Guard troops, to contribute to the effort in Washington, D.C. People, if you're not paying attention to this, just observe what is going on. Republican states that have cities with higher crime rates than Washington, D.C. are sending troops to the nation's capital. This is the shit of civil war. I'm sorry. But you have Republican governors lining up to do the bidding of the president under a false pretense. This is the stuff of fascist dictatorships. And if people are saying, "Oh my God, are you calling Andy Brem a fascist for praising this?" Yes, I am. And if you're pissed about that, I said what I said. That's the thing.
All right.
If you'd like to email Javier, his email is. Okay, I'm going to go very quick. So my spank is for some jackass who stole a statue of Suni Lee.
What's wrong?
I know. This is why we can't have nice things. So St. Paul police are searching for a statue of Olympic gymnast Suni Lee, who won a gold medal in the Tokyo Games in 2021. She is from St. Paul. She is Hmong. She is just a Minnesota hero and somebody,
Minnesota angel,
and somebody that we should all. I've met her. She seemed very nice. This is something that was stolen from Lake Phelan. This was earlier in the month. Earlier in August. As far as I know, they have not found it. They have not retrieved it. But there is zero reason to take this statue away from anyone other than just being a straight up POS jackass. So if you have it, I'm sure you're not listening, but give it back. Suni Lee deserves our respect. And it should go back right to where it was. And then
St. Paul needs to bolt it down.
Yeah. I guess I don't know how it was affixed, but also we probably should figure that out.
Yeah.
What is happening in St. Paul? All right.
So, and my thank is going to be to judge rules that Texas can't put the 10 Commandments in school districts' classrooms. Well, no shit. You can't do that. I'm surprised. Why are we still talking about this? The First Amendment to the Constitution, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. You can't do it. I know you might want to do it, and you might say, hey, in certain classrooms, everyone's Christian, and what's wrong with putting up the 10 Commandments? Are you saying that thou shalt not kill is something wrong, or that they shouldn't honor thy mother and thy father? What's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods before me. That's why you can't have it. And to say, well, they could put up, things for Jewish people and Muslim people. No, this is settled law. And why? I think this is the third state now that has tried to do this and been slapped down by the courts, because anybody who went to law school knows that this is exactly what the First Amendment is trying to avoid. So, not saying that the 10 Commandments aren't great. Put them up in your house. Put them up in your church. Tattoo them on your forehead. Whatever you want to do. But you cannot put them in public school. It is settled law. Stop talking about this. And with that, I'm going to get emails now.
Yeah.
I am GOP strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader, Amy Koch.
I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican Heat, Javier Morillo.
And we are
Wrong About Everything.
Wrong About Everything.
Thank you, James Farnsworth.
Yeah.
See everyone next week.
Bye, Avi.
Bye.